Welcome to another episode of The Change, where we introduce you to the people and ideas shaping MENA region. Our guest today was born in Lebanon but raised in Canada, where he studied and started his professional career. He successfully managed to combine his two passions, one for engineering and the other one for law. He holds bachelor degrees in computer engineering and civil law. He has a master's degree in electrical engineering, and he holds a degree in common law. That's a lot of degrees. After finishing his studies, he realized that IP law was the ideal field for him. So he was admitted to the Bar of Quebec and embarked on his first legal role as a patent specialist at a large Canadian law firm. Over the course of his career, he worked for several large law firms, leading their patent and IP teams. In 2011, he moved to UAE, and today he is the head of patents and design at Tamimi Company, one of the leading law firms in the UAE. Without further ado, I would like to welcome to this episode Mr. Ahmad Saleh.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's my absolute pleasure to have you here, and I was so excited to have this conversation because the background and your background, engineering and law, and how you managed to put this together was super interesting for me. And when I read about your background and Lebanon, then moving to United States, and then to Canada, and then from Canada to the Middle East, and that whole journey was quite interesting. So why don't we start there? Can you just tell me a bit more about this whole journey from Lebanon to where you are today? And try to summarize it with some highlights. One thing that caught my eye was this moment where you were, I think you were in high school when you were visiting the court to listen lawyers, working on the cases. But this whole journey probably influenced significantly who you are today.
Absolutely. And I'm a big believer of the creation of your own self.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, it's really all this amalgam of experiences you pass through that makes you at the end of the day what you are today.
Mm-hmm.
And I strongly believe that all this path I went through since my childhood, and specifically through maybe the first 10 or 15 years of my life following my immigration from Lebanon, and in the late 80s, defined who I am today and what I wanted to do as career, and built in my passions. So my parents decided to immigrate from Lebanon in the late 80s, and this is when most of the Lebanese, or a big number of the Lebanese community, traveled from Lebanon looking for a safer place for them and their families to live. And so my parents decided to send me first to the US, and from there, a couple of years later, they decided we moved to Canada, and the choice was to go to Montreal in Quebec, so it's the French province of Canada. And this is where I really started, to build my passion for law and for engineering. Engineering, I think it was my first passion in the beginning. Why? Because I think it's a little bit cultural. My parents, as well as in the Arab culture,
yes.
Either your parents want you to be a doctor or an engineer. They never mentioned a lawyer. I don't know why. So so I want to become an engineer, and it was in the beginning, in the 90s, it was the emergence of computer systems and so on.
Good time to be an engineer.
It was a good time to be a computer engineer, and they had a lot of curiosity for this field. So I started really building computers at a young age. I was 14, 15 years old. I used to buy memory chips and sell it, and I used to build some computers with some other guys, and so I built a passion for that at that time. I really developed this passion in the age of 15 to 20 years old. This was the age where I built this passion to the law, and I started to acquire some kind of preliminary knowledge about what a lawyer can do. IP wasn't yet there. So I had my engineering. I had a passion for my engineering, and I really wanted to get my degree there. So I went to University of Montreal to École Polytechnique, and then I got my computer engineering degree. And I was really good in it. So I did, I did an internship with Motorola, with the Canadian Space Agency in aerospace technologies. I did others with on the biomedical engineering side of things, and I was really good in engineering. So I had a lot of passion for that. But following my second year in engineering, I wanted also to combine law. So I waited to complete my engineering degree, and after that, I decided to go into law. So I started my degree in law.
But that's okay. There was a passion for engineering and a passion for law, but I can hear here a passion for learning, because most of the people after they're through with bachelor studies, they're looking for a job, or I'm going for a master degree, but after that, like, I need a break of learning. But you continued with.
I was hungry for learning.
That was amazing.
I was craving learning. I was craving knowledge.
That's amazing.
And I do believe that people, that achievers, need to crave something to achieve. And that's why today, when I sit with someone, I interview a potential candidate for my team, to join my team, I look for that crave. I look for that crave for achievement, for knowledge. If I don't see it, I don't take that person, because this person will achieve best when there's a crave to achieve, when there's a crave to get more knowledge. And this passion, this crave is absolutely necessary. Don't ask me where does it come from. I will not dive into psychology.
Yes.
But for sure, there's a huge world behind this.
Yeah.
But if you find it in a person, don't let that person go.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. 100%. So you successfully managed to, after you finish with you never finish with studies. You're still learning. You're still learning. But once you round up your degree in engineering and your degree in law, you decided to put this together and focus on IP rights, on patents. How did you come up with that idea?
Well, actually, I want something to combine both. I love engineering, I love law. I want something that combines both, so that I can work on both worlds every day. And I looked for that. It's not something which came naturally, IP, right? So I looked for that, and I found that there's a beautiful, perfect world which merges both of these areas, and it was IP and patents.
And especially back in the days, those were 90s, when Silicon Valley and technology was exploding, I guess. And at the time, I mean, depending from which angle you're observing, most of the people are not even aware about patents and copyright and the power of patents and copyrights even today. But it's been with us for decades, and even, I'm not sure, centuries, but it's been with us for a long time.
Absolutely. In these years, I think there was a very big trend to go and patent e-commerce related innovations, and many American firms, benefited from this trend in the US. At that time, the door was wide open to protect these, such as the one-click Amazon and other e-commerce related, innovations. And no, absolutely, patent is extremely important. It's one of the most powerful tools for achieving a success in your business, especially if you're talking about innovation-driven businesses.
And we'll be talking about patents probably a lot later on in conversation. And then you decided to, I'm skipping up 10 years probably, but then you decided to move to this region and to buy. How did that happen?
Well, actually, it happened as a bit of preparation and coincidence in the same time. So in 2007, I met Karim, who was my actual wife, and at that time I was building my career in Montreal, And I had a position where I used to come to the Middle East often to attend to conferences and to develop relationships with existing companies and firms here in the region to help them with their patent-related, needs. And because this expertise wasn't present in the region here, so I received a lot of interest from existing firms in the region here and inventors to help them with the protection of their innovations, and I used to do that remotely. And so at that time, my wife, encouraged me to maybe look for something in the region here. It's for her, she wanted to move somewhere in the region to be a bit closer to her parents. And then I started to dig a little bit about the region. And honestly, at that time, I didn't know much about Dubai. I didn't know much about the UAE.
That was 2010.
That was around 2009, 2010.
And this region was just waiting for someone like you.
And I was far for so many years, so I didn't really know a lot about the region here. And when I started digging, I was so proud to find out that there is a place, like Dubai in the Arab world. And I saw a huge opportunity, and I had a vision at that time that, and believe it or not, and it's, I had a vision that, innovation can really be established and kicked off from this specific place here in the UAE. And I wanted to be part of that, so I put all my stones on that, and I decided to move to the UAE to be in the ecosystem and try to build something in the innovation sphere. And I started really my journey. And when I came here, I used to go to universities. I visited universities, public entities, governments, private entities, and started to build, this in my practices in the firms where I started with around patents and intellectual property, particularly speaking about innovations. So this is how all started.
And 10 years forward, today your exact role is regional head of patents and design in Tamimi Company. Can you just tell me and explain us what exactly that role means and what makes you a good head of patents and design in a law firm in the Middle East?
Well, actually, I joined the Tamimi Company in 2013. And Tamimi Company is the largest law firm in the Middle East. And it's a regional law firm with an international reach and culture. So there are more than 50 nationalities in Tamimi Company. And it has many offices. It has 17 offices today in 9 countries in the region here, and with more than 400 lawyers, and with a lot of excellent relationships with the governments, the local governments and the regional governments, and the public and private entities here and internationally. So I was looking for a place where I can really expand the patents and innovation practice. And so I had 2 options. Either I have to be in a place where I need to build everything from scratch, and this including all the physical network, the physical places in each and every country in the region here, and the relationships and all of that stuff. Or I join a reputable firm like Tamimi Company with the existing infrastructure and good reputation and relationships, and I use that infrastructure to expand this specific expertise throughout this infrastructure. And Al-Tamimi's, infrastructure platform was ideal for that. It was, it fits exactly and it aligns exactly with what I wanted in terms of culture, mindset, in terms of ambition, drive, business. So I found really an excellent synergy between me and Al-Tamimi from all perspectives. And I decided to join.
So the role of you're a head of patents and design. Can you unpack that a bit more for us to understand what that role and that department really do?
Sure. So patents is concerned about the protection of inventions. All right, and inventions emerge when someone comes to a new and technical, an inventive technical solution to a technical problem. And so inventions, you can find it in really in the full spectrum of fields of industries, but mostly you find it in coming out from research and development activities. So universities has a lot of that. So you find a lot of inventions coming out from the research outcome from universities and other research centers. Hospitals, for example, can have research centers, and many inventions come from the pharma companies do a lot of research, and most of the drugs are protected by patents. So patents are concerned to protect the inventions because you don't want, as a business owner, someone else to go and misappropriate your concept and your invention and go and commercialize it. Imagine, for example, for startups, this is extremely important. Why? Because let's say a startup is working on a new project and they came up with a new concept which is very, very interesting from both a technical and business perspective. And so if this is not protected under the law, what happens that someone else can take this concept and go make it, commercialize it, exploit it themselves. So imagine this startup who would have spent a year or 2 years developing this concept and working hard to achieve it and spent a lot of money doing that. And at the end of the day, someone else take this concept, go out there to the market, commercialize it, and make money out of it. So it can really put the startup on their knees. So that's why it's extremely important for a business owner to go and protect this concept immediately before putting it to the market, before public disclosure, through patents. A patent is a legal term for the protection, it's the legal vehicle to protect an invention, and an invention is a technical solution to a technical problem, which can be really around anything you can think about. This is what a patent is. Designs are another legal vehicle to protect the ornamental features of objects. For example, you have a new design for a chair, for a furniture, for a vehicle, for an airplane, for whatever. And this new design, which is an ornamental features of that object, is unique and novel, and you want to protect it. So this is protectable through industrial design. So industrial design is the legal vehicle to protect ornamental features and the designs, and it can be 2D or 3D features of an object. So they really complete each other. Sometimes you have an object, for example, and you want to protect it from the structural and functional perspective, and this is through patents. And also it has a unique shape, and you want to protect it from the ornamental perspective, and you go through industrial design. So this is with respect to the protection. So what we do is really we do help innovators in the protection of their inventions and their design through patents and designs. And we help them with the commercialization. We do all the agreements, the collaboration agreements, the R&D agreements, the manufacturing agreement, the prototyping agreements, the confidentiality agreements, and you name it. We have them with the enforcement. If someone tries to infringe on these rights, try to misappropriate these rights, they take, for example, the same concept, they try to reproduce it, we stop them, we sue them, we take legal actions against them, we help with the litigation side of things and with the clearance side of things. If you want to put a product on the market, you want to make sure that we're not infringing other people's rights. So we do this kind of clearance searches and opinions. So we advise you if you're clear to go to the market, or if there are any existing patent rights belonging to others that you might be infringing in commercializing your product. So we give you the options, the legal options available, and one of them can be speaking to that person and maybe having an agreement or seeking a license from that entity, and so on. So this is a little bit quick overview of
this is,
what
I
we
would
do.
say in one word, you are a party that is more relevant than ever in a day and age where there is so many innovations around us. There is
Absolutely.
so many, especially in last 10 or 20 years since the whole technology fourth revolution, as they call it, started. And there was a terminology, research and development, that was used before. Now it's becoming more and more maybe innovation, right? You can hear innovation kind of in a...
Yes, well, for me it's a little bit two different concepts. For me, research and development is conducting research around specific fields or issues or problems and developing something around it. And for example, we find a lot of research and development at universities. So research is conducted by the faculty staff, and development, for example, is conducted by the science or innovation parts related to the universities, for example, or by the startups which are created there. Innovation is a little bit a wider concept, the way I see it.
How would you define innovation? Because it's a very common term today, and everyone is using it in their own terms.
Exactly. Well, innovation is in my opinion, it's a living concept. It's a living tree. So every day you'll find a new branch and a new leaf coming out from that tree. And this is the beauty of innovation, is that you cannot really limit it in one definition. It's a living tree. It takes the form of the advancement of the society, of technologies, and of the creativity and so on. So as creativity, sky is the limit for creativity, innovation as well, as it's related and linked to creativity. So sky is the limit, and really we cannot define it in one box or in one definition. But if I want to put some maybe important attributes around innovation, it's important to be something which is creative, which is novel, which is unique, which is commercially viable for the market. You can, for example, come up with a new concept, however, it's not really commercially viable, so it doesn't have a practical utility, and so it's less innovative, for example. So innovation also connects both the technical side, in my opinion, and the commercial side of things. And so your product needs to be a little bit technically novel and unique, and at the same time commercially viable and interesting.
Yeah, no, that absolutely. And obviously we're today kind of facing a very turbulent times, and the whole pandemic that nobody really expected hit us super hard. But my opinion is that this is going to kind of fast track some of the transformations that need to happen in business and industries. How do you think this will drive changes in UAE? What can we expect? What's your thought on that?
Well, speaking about the pandemic in itself, if we go back a little bit before the pandemic, we were all already passing through the fourth industrial revolution, and many companies were already pivoting in that sphere and preparing for the transformation. And many other companies weren't really taking this seriously. Maybe they were trying to do something or starting to do something, but not really doing something serious about it. And others were in complete denial, about
that
about
nothing
it.
is going on. Don't talk to me. Everything is alright.
Exactly. So what happened is that when the pandemic arrived and people were obliged to stay and work from home. So to work from home, they need all the IT preparations to be put in place. Everything has to be done remotely, so on and so forth. And so, of course, the digital world or the virtual world became much more important than the physical world because everything became virtual for you to be able to function. So if you haven't taken these preparations before, now you were a little bit paralyzed in how you can do things. So this was really an eye-opener. And so the pandemic, in my opinion, and the expression that I used is, it brought up a big wave of digital innovation and digital transformation. So this big tornado which came there is extremely interesting for people who know how to surf because they took their surf and they started surfing this way. They love the big wave.
They prepared the board already before the wave came.
Exactly. So so this is what I name the innovation-driven enterprises. They went on and they started surfing this wave and taking advantage of this wave and started to serve companies in the digital transformation, so on, and benefiting.
I'm curious to know, so you are mentioning in your article that you wrote wake surfers and disruptors, and now we're talking about wake surfers. What made them ready for this comparing to the others?
Well, actually, in the article, I speak about two types of enterprises, of emerging enterprises, which will benefit hugely from this pandemic and from this wave of transformation and digital innovation. Type A is these emerging companies which already existed and were there trying to do something and already servicing the businesses in the market through providing them with IT services, for example, or helping them with the digital transformation, or selling digital services or products to them. So these enterprises are already in the field and they already have their networks and so on and their products. So this wave came in to impose a certain reality and to impose certain needs for digital transformation. So all
they surfaced up as more relevant than ever.
As more relevant than others, and they took advantage of the infrastructure they already had in place, of the platform they already had in place, of the expertise they already had in place, to bring out new products and new services and to service more and more these businesses in need for such digital innovative services. So this is type A, and we've seen it today in the article. I wrote it in March, so it was in the beginning of the pandemic, and it was kind of prediction of how things can move on. And today, after a couple of months, we can see that these companies have really benefited from.
So those are the companies such as Huawei, Microsoft. Just giving a kind of a very high, big names as an example. But
absolutely.
And then there's like Zooms of the world that exploded, right?
Zoom exploded like crazy. Amazon exploded like crazy. Huawei is, I believe Huawei will become stronger than ever, and it's in the article.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Huawei yet, have the real strength is apparent to the external yet, but I believe Huawei will become stronger
yet to come,
than ever, and it's something that we will see and become more obvious, in the next period. So this is type A companies. So they were there before the pandemic, and then they benefited really from these changes which were imposed by this pandemic. Type B emerging companies is extremely interesting, and this is what I talk about in the article. And Type B enterprises are innovation-driven enterprises, which were a little bit stranger to the industry they came in to service after the pandemic. So these are disruptors. These are disruptors. They look at the industry, they look at the markets, and they say, why can't we do things differently? I want to disrupt that market. This market is too traditional. This market is too old. This market, the way of servicing these clients is not really, appealing anymore for these clients. I can bet if I bring something new and different, I can shift the market. I can displace this market. I can take down the existing, service providers, and and I can take over their business in the way of the new way of doing things. Think about, for example, Netflix and Blockbuster. This is what exactly happened back then in the 2006, 2007. So at that time you had the 3G was emerging, stronger internet connectivity coming out. The users were already ready to start, using the internet more and more. So the behavior, there was a readiness to change a behavior. So Blockbuster came and started first, servicing some marginal segment of the clients which were not important for Blockbuster. So Blockbuster didn't react to that and didn't respond, said, okay, fine, you can have that. Well, anyway, this segment of clients is not important for me. But this is how disruption starts.
That's how it starts, yeah, that's how it starts.
And then afterwards, with the emergence of new connection capabilities and so on, Netflix came up with a platform and which was extremely appealing to even the main client stream of Blockbuster, and they started using that.
So these are the so-called disruptor companies, right?
These are the disruptor companies, and I strongly believe that we will, these companies most probably will not see it now today, but they are. It doesn't mean they are not there. They are in preparation. They are building their products. They are building their strategy. They are getting prepared, and when the time comes, they will come out with their disruption striking actions.
Yeah. So what makes it now the conversation interesting, and I was waiting for this question to finally come now, something that is not visible, but it's super important. We are bringing now in a perspective legal, copyrights and patents. And now we already introduced what patents are and how important it is. But now when we are talking about wave surfers and the disruptors, there's two types of companies that will potentially benefit from this this cycle that we're going through. Tell us a bit more about how legal fits in and how are both sides using patents and copyrights and IPs in their benefit.
Actually, patents and intellectual property are very powerful tools for these businesses. So focusing about patents, and as I said, patents are really there to protect someone's inventions and technical concepts. And these companies, especially the disruptors coming out with new technologies and new innovations, they would want to protect these. Why they want to protect these? They want to protect these because, as I said, if they want to conduct their disruption attacks, it means that they don't want any other company to be able to do the same thing. So if they have a technology and they come out and the existing companies realize that that's working, well, they'll adopt the same technology. They'll build it up and then start to use it.
So one of the questions that we received a couple of times when we were pitching for venture capital with our startups was, if money and resources was not an issue, how much time would someone else need to build your solution? Exactly. And this is a good question, because that's what a lot of disruptor companies are facing if they're attacking enterprises and large corporations, right?
Absolutely. So, of course, the time to rebuild something is a factor to take it into consideration. Now, one can say, all right, so even if I don't have a patent, it will take the other company, for example, 2 years to come up with this software or with this technology, and in these 2 years, I will already have that share of the market. But this is always a bet, because you can't really know what the other companies will do, and if they will come up with a solution faster, or if they will develop this technology in a faster time, and you're betting on something that you don't have control over it. So it's a gamble. However, when you have a patent, it's a legal vehicle to protect your concept. So the competition cannot take it, cannot reproduce it, cannot use it, and therefore it acts as a barrier to others to enter the market. So you're protecting it, and it's extremely powerful because it puts you in an equal level with even large companies. Imagine you're a startup, you're coming into the market with a completely new product, and it's protected, and you have a very big, large company already existing there, okay, and with your patent is providing a very powerful tool against that existing company, that even with all the resources they have, they cannot compete against your product because they cannot make it because it's legally protected.
Or you're going to write them a very big check to use your technology.
Exactly. This is exactly, and this can be one of the strategies of these startups. They want to be acquired by these companies. They want to sell out their technologies. So the patent can serve really as a sword if you want to threaten others with. It can be used also as a leverage tool to sell your business, to sell your technology during mergers, acquisitions, and so on, to these companies, to give it a boost from the financial perspective, so on.
To drop a bit more light on patent, and there is, as you know, we are living in the age where everyone has an idea, if not 10. So everyone is every day coming up with some idea, and especially in technology, patents, how difficult it is to protect technology with patent, given the fact that a lot of technology is already common. It's not that easy to differentiate and say how unique you are, so you can actually put a patent on it. And can you throw a bit more light on that process? Well, for everyone who is thinking, hey, I have this awesome idea, I want to protect it now.
Yeah. Well, as I said, an idea in itself is not something which is protectable under the law. And as lawyers, we always make a difference between a pure abstract idea and something more concrete, like a concept in itself. So an invention is really a technical solution to a technical problem. It has to be technical in nature. A patent cannot protect a business model, for example. It cannot protect a financial model. So it has to be technical in nature. Software, the process underlying the software, we can protect them by patents, but it's also subject to the laws of the country where we are filing the patent applications, and these can be a little bit tricky. So it has to have kind of technical flavor in that, and this is also the art of the patent attorney, writing the patent application and presenting it. So it's not like any abstract idea can be protected, and so there should be something out there how to achieve that idea. Okay, so you can't protect a desired idea, but the way of achieving that idea from the technical perspective, it's something we protect, and normally we do help innovators to get to that level. And I've seen a lot, and especially entrepreneurs coming up with pure ideas without knowing exactly how to implement it from the technical perspective, and it's a coaching we provide to help them to maturity from the technical and legal perspective, to bring it up to a level where we have something which is more an implementable technical concept which can be protectable from the legal perspective. This is a very important step of data mining with the inventor, and then helping that person. We put here our engineering hat, our legal hat at the same time, and the business hat, and we sit down with them and we try to bring it up to that level, and then we take it from there to the legal protection.
So, for example, if you take as an example something very popular, so everyone can kind of understand it, Uber as a concept. Uber is a platform that is built by a common technology. Uber is not something that can be protected as a concept or as a Uber concept, right? Is it something that?
Well, Uber, if you look at Uber at the patent application or the patent portfolio of Uber,
Do they have a patent portfolio?
They do have a patent portfolio, yes, they do. And the patent portfolio will be around many different technical concepts around the payment, or around the delivery of services, around the data processing side of things, and so on, which make their system very efficient.
What it is. Yeah.
What it is today, and very efficient. So, this is, it's, as I said, it's really the technical concepts, the way you implement specific things, which you go and you protect by patent. And sometimes sometimes a technical concept or a way you implement certain thing makes your success today.
Exactly, absolutely. Yeah.
And so Uber concept, people, when they speak about Uber concept today, they say about the decentralization of services in a whole. So I want to use Uber concept, for example, for I don't know, for
Uber of gardeners, Uber of lawyers, Uber of
exactly. So no, this is a business model. This is a business concept
that cannot be protected.
That cannot be protected. However, what can be protected is the implementation of this, okay, on a specific application today. Let's say you want to apply it for lawyers. However, when you come to apply it for lawyers, the technical implementation of this makes you need to develop it in a certain way from the technical perspective. This specific technical way of developing it, we go and we protect it through.
I see, I understand process, which if while you're small, it doesn't really, it's, the value is maybe not as high, but if it happens that you do disrupt the industry and you do start competing on a global level or a national level, at that point the value of your patents becomes super important, because then your competitors cannot use the same way. You're probably, my assumption would be they will find a way around it, but you're going to make their life a lot more difficult to achieve the same results, or you're going to make them actually pay you the premium for using, if you want to do that. But
absolutely. I mean, it's a patent's value is defined by a number of criteria. One of them is the scope, the competitive scope, or the breadth of the patents. How much you capture in terms of monopoly, and the wider the patent is, the more value it has. So, and it's the more difficult for competition to design around it. And
so like a game of chess, like you're playing.
Exactly, it is. Well, actually, when I write a patent application, I feel I'm playing chess. And when I defend a patent application in front of a patent office, I also feel I'm playing chess. When I go into litigation, I also feel I'm playing chess, and chess is my favorite game, and I play it every day with my kid as well.
Okay, so I had this spot now.
And my kid is 5 years old, and he's a great chess player.
He's beating you.
He's excellent.
Maybe he should be our next guest. There's a lot of things that you can learn from a 5-year-old.
A lot of things, and he's an inventor as well.
Yeah,
he's already an inventor in one of the inventions.
They are going to disrupt our future world.
Exactly.
If you're talking about, and I read in one of your articles, patent wars on a large scale and large organizations, like we mentioned Huawei, IBM, they called IBM patent troll, right? What is exactly the patent war? I heard they have tens of thousands of patents, and how do you even establish, how complex is to establish a process of putting so many patents that on a yearly basis, I guess they're putting in thousands and thousands of patents all the time, right? It must be super complicated.
For these large companies, patents can be used in different types of strategies. It's like, it's like a government which is building war weapons. Okay, many of them will never be used. However, you put it in reserve just as a threat against others.
I see. Practical advice for anyone and all the entrepreneurs and idea makers out there. At what point in your life cycle of your idea or a concept is good to start thinking about patent and submitting a patent? How do you call it? Patent application, right?
Immediately, once you come up with your concept, it means once you know how to implement technically your idea, and before any public disclosure of your idea or of your invention, you need to come and to file a patent application with that concept, because any public disclosure of the invention prior to filing the patent application can and will, in most countries, compromise irrevocably. It means you can't go back, compromise the patentability of your invention, because it kills the novelty. An invention needs to be novel to be protectable by patent. If you go out there and you shout out there with your invention, or you tell it to the public, or you put it, you write an article about it, or you put it on the website, or discuss it in a conference, you just kill the novelty. It's not novel anymore.
I understand. Ahmed, super insightful conversation. I think we throwed, at least for me, we throwed a lot of light on this topic. I think I will talk to you after the session about more about this topic. I hope that you all enjoyed in this episode, that you learned something new. Please feel free to leave us comments or reach us directly on LinkedIn. We'll be happy to provide you further feedback. Mr. Ahmed is here to support all of your initiatives and give you some practical advices. Until the next episode, stay tuned, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ahmed. Thanks for coming. Bye.